Zach and Timers, hello! Today is an exciting day because we are finally interviewing the voice of Zach McAllister himself, the incredible voice actor Donathan Walters. We are so excited to have him voicing our lead character. He's doing just a fantastic job, and we're so excited to talk to him about his experience today on our live Instagram video. I'm Holly Payne. I'm the PR manager for Zach and Time. And let's get Donathan on. Should be on momentarily. Hi, Donathan.
How are you, Holly?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Well, first of all, let's say congratulations about the big news of the teaser trailer dropping for our patrons.
It was amazing. It was. I watched it the other day and I was like, wow, it's happening. It's finally happening.
I know.
We've waited so long. It's happening.
Yeah. Oh, it's looking so incredible, and we would love everyone to go check it out. That's been awesome. And you and I, because you're currently at NYU, correct?
Yeah, I just finished up my second year at NYU grad acting, so
ooh,
I'm doing my MFA.
Awesome. That is incredible. I did not have an MFA, but I did go to a college in New York. I went to Vassar College.
Oh, where's Vassar? I don't know if I know.
It's in Poughkeepsie.
Poughkeepsie, is that like upstate?
Yeah, well, it's about 75 miles north of New York. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm seeing all the comments down here.
I know everyone's saying I'm a fan.
I love this. Hi, everybody.
This is the first time we've seen you on this account.
I know, right? I was kind of in hiding in the semester. I've just kind of been in hiding. I've had my head under a rock, doing school, doing quarantine COVID school, which it's been quite the experience. But I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, to be honest. So.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, you clearly have a passion for acting because you have been in so many short films and video games. Like, is there any that you're particularly passionate about, or one that you have coming up, or?
Well, the one I would say I'm the most passionate about, which is probably, other than Zach and Time, I'm super excited for that. But the NBA 2K video games, I don't know if any of our lovely Zach and Timers are 2K players, but I voiced the assistant coach in 2K 18 and 19. And it was a bizarre situation how it happened. I went in, I auditioned for it just like everybody else. And I ended up getting a callback. It was a very quick turnaround, and then I felt, obviously, sometimes when you do your best, you actually feel your worst. So I remember walking out of the callback, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I just did in that room. I completely blanked. I felt nauseous. I had to sit down, drink a bottle of water. I called my mom. She's usually my person that I like when I'm feeling really bad about an audition. I'll call her and be like, yeah, I don't know how that went. She's like, just breathe, it'll be all right. And I think I didn't hear back for about a month, and then all of a sudden I just got this email from the producers like, you got 2K, we need you to fly up to Petaluma, which is where the 2K studios are located. We need you to fly up to Petaluma next week. So everything was a quick turnaround, but such an amazing opportunity and experience, especially that being a video game that I played as a kid. And all my cousins and friends, everybody I knew at school, everybody played 2K,
Yeah.
And so being flown up from Los Angeles, I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and being flown up and being treated just with love and seeing the facilities in the studio where they the motion capture studio where they've made all these video games. And then their 2K's sister company is Rockstar. Rockstar does all the Grand Theft Autos. And so just being in the environment of like these people, this is what these people do for a living. They make these awesome video games that we grow up on. And so
Yeah.
that was probably the biggest. I mean, you know, I had the whole motion capture suit. I got a chance to work with Shaquille O'Neal. I got a chance to work with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Just like all of these like legends, right? These NBA legends that I got a chance to, you know, work with, and it was amazing. So that was probably my best so far, you know, until Zack in Time comes out. That was like the biggest thing that I've been a part of. That's been amazing. So
Yeah, that's amazing. Did it help like was that what was that what called you into voice acting or
you know, it's so funny. I don't even call it like me just going into voice acting. I mean, I just say I'm an actor. You know, I whatever
yeah.
job that I can get my hands on it. Specifically at the time, I didn't even realize that it was motion capture. I just the auditions, because sometimes the auditions for those are quite vague, just so that they can, you know, protect the video game and the story and all this stuff. So they'll give you different sides for things. And so I wasn't even 100% sure what I was auditioning for when I got it. And it wasn't until the callback where the director was in the room, Chris Pacuniak, and he was like, do you know what this is for? And I was like, no, not really. I'm just saying basketball jargon. And he's like, it's for the NBA 2K games. And I was like, oh, I'm auditioning for a video game. And so it was a whole nother world. I mean, yes, let me just say this. I definitely grew a love for voiceover and motion capture because everything is heightened in a very specific way. So, and I'm sure you've had some of the other actors on here as well. Like voiceover within itself is an art, and voiceover in a motion capture suit where, you know, your body's engaged and you have to really accentuate all of your movement to tell a specific story, that you can't always have the luxury of your face, you know, or your eyes or anything that, you know, normally in TV or film that we would normally have. So I would say I got a chance to blend my theater training as well as my film training when it came to doing motion capture. Um, and then from there, even back, because I'm originally from St. Louis, so even back in St. Louis, I did like industrial spots, you know, so just voiceovers for like PSAs and things like different campaigns and things, but nothing like what I had to do for 2K and for Zack in Time. Like completely different world, and it's great because it's in parallel with what I'm learning in school right now, where we're learning different, you know, tricks and trades to how to further and better tell a school. So, oh, you froze for a second. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Now you're back. That is really exciting, and I love how you said that you think of yourself as an actor because, like, you know, oh, I'm going into voice acting. Like, it's if you can't act, and I say this all the time, if you can't act, you're not going to be able to voice act.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your voice sounds like or what you can make your voice sound like. You have to come to the table with the same acting ability as whether you're acting on camera or on stage.
Yeah. I mean, it's because you have to really push, you know, your objective. What does your character want? What are the circumstances? And I mean, all of these different factors, they go into it all having to come through the voice and hit the listener's ear. And you, by whatever I'm doing in the booth or whatever I'm doing, yeah, with my inflection of words or the way I use the words, you have to make sure that's clear. So,
right.
you know, whereas if you don't really understand the basics of acting and breaking down a scene or just going after an objective or intention, then it comes off as you're just reading, you know. So that's what it sounds like, believe it or not.
Yeah, it does. If you read every line the same way, like you're just picking any line of a book,
right.
You have to think about the whole story. How did you come to work on Zack in Time? How were you cast?
Yeah, so Paige, who is the wonderful producer, Paige Powell and I worked on a project back when she was in Biola University in La Mirada. We did a awesome short called The Eastern Wood, which was written and directed. Oh my God, he's gonna kill me. Brandon Spring. Sorry, Brandon. And it's called The Eastern Wood, and it was basically the story of Cain and Abel from the Bible. And so I played Kane, and we connected there. It was an amazing short film that went and won some awards, proudly to say, at some festivals. But Paige and I have just stayed in touch since, and so she reached out to me and said, "Hey, we are putting together this awesome animated series, and we'd like to know if you'd like to, record something for it and essentially audition for it." And so over the summer, I had went and set up my room in this way of like, I put some padding on the walls, got myself a mic, and was like, just in case some voiceover stuff did come, I would at least be ready to have some quality sound in my room. And I recorded it for them, played around with a couple of different voices for Christian, where we met via Zoom, and a couple of days later, I got the email saying, "We'd love for you to voice Zach."
That's Zach.
Right.
The voice of Zach. That is, wow. And also because you were saying like the way that you felt about working on the video games, I felt like working on this show for me a lot has come full circle because it reminds me of things that I grew up with.
Right.
As a kid, like Danny Phantom, or it has a similar like action show with attention to character that creates sort of a development tone that
for sure. I mean, it reminded me of Danny Phantom. It reminded me of Kim Possible a little bit. Kim Possible, now I think it's a live action now. But when I was growing up, it was definitely a cartoon. And Fillmore. I don't know if you remember the series Fillmore. It only got like 2 seasons, but that was that it kind of brought in some Fillmore a little bit in there as well. And I think what I think was so important to me about like in having the opportunity to voice Zach and then actually understand Zach's story of him being, biracial and moving to this new town, new school, new friends. I mean, we all remember that age. We might not have had to move around a lot or went through some of the things like the single parent household that Zach grew up in or is forced to grow up in. But like we all remember what those years were like. Right when puberty is starting, when it's awkward of like one day they're your friends, one day they're not your friends. Some days are great, some days are just the worst. And it's everything is at polar opposites. It's either really, really great or it's the absolute worst thing you've ever endured. And it's like to have all those emotions at 12, 13, 14 years old. I just thought a story like this and again, with us having a lead of color, like a black lead is something I was like, oh, absolutely. I would love to be a part of that conversation because again, that's what drew me to Fillmore. That only got 2 seasons and it was gone. Hey Arnold was also one of my favorite cartoons and I loved Gerald. Like I loved every last one of those characters on Hey Arnold, but there was something about Gerald that just, that I was able to identify. And my cousins and my friends who I would watch these shows with, we're able to identify and see ourselves in these worlds, but usually never as the lead. So having this opportunity with Zach, I was like, yeah, if I can show the next generation, my nieces, my nephews, my little cousins who are all coming up, if they can see that and see themselves and, have a better understanding of their experience as they grow up, that's kind of like my vision and my hope for what Zach and Time can offer.
That's wonderful. Not even just entertaining, but showing, especially kids, that they have a place, and they're no matter who they are or where they've come from, or if they think they fit in or they seem like they don't. Like it's all, the most important thing is how you feel about yourself. Right. At the end, that's what's going to carry you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, all the deep kind of layers and tropes that you would think, I think people forget that we have that ability with animation. I mean, Pixar does it every time. That movie Soul. Did you get a chance to see Soul?
Good.
Like,
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, I wish. I'm glad it's out now, but I wish that Soul was out when I was 12, 13. You know, because it opens up in such a way that is in our vocabulary today. The whole idea of chakras and the whole idea of like how we speak. I think Soul just offers such a great opportunity for deeper conversation, you know, about where do we go after. I mean, all these things that Soul just brought, but like to see so much of my own culture in that movie and the details, you know, the details. Specifically that's coming to mind is the barbershop scene.
yeah.
Like that's such a specific thing to Black culture, you know,
Mm.
and the details they took to everybody to have their own different hairstyles and braids. And again, it was nothing that was washed over. It was so specifically just detailed. And then when he goes into the sewing shop where his mom works, and like the music that was playing, I think it was an Erykah Badu song, which she's one of my favorite artists. So like all these things that was speaking to me subconsciously in that film, but speaking to me subconsciously as an African American. Um, Again, I'm down for those conversations, and for us who have the power to create, to take that responsibility and make sure we loop everybody in, you know, to a common conversation. So
Because there's no one way.
sorry, noisy background. Say it again.
There's no one way to live or to be motivated in this
Yeah.
world. You're, you know, being a good person, you're going after what you're passionate about at the end of the day.
It's what we get to. I mean, it's, you know, it's what I think it's a blessing, and sometimes it's a curse, you know, when you're
Mhm.
creative and have that opportunity. But for the most part, it's, I mean, we're so incredibly lucky to do what we do as artists and creatives. So
It's tough because you almost want to say like everything that you know, and you only have like 22 minutes per episode to
right.
get like, you know, sometimes one theme across, and
Yeah.
it's really nice when you, especially something like Soul, where you can sort of, there might be one overall theme, but it's like expressed in so many different ways because of how deeply realistically the characters are crafted.
Right. Yeah. Or you can just get something like, I don't know, The Simpsons or South Park, where they just go on forever, you know, and we eventually start predicting the future. I don't know.
Simpsons predicts everything.
Hey,
It's
you
almost
know,
scary.
sometimes I can't watch it because I'm like, oh no, 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 that's gonna happen. This is gonna happen. You
We're
know,
gonna watch
so
Zack in 30 years and be like, we predicted
so
this.
we predicted it. We saw it coming. We knew it was coming. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, but, you know, that's just the beauty in being able to tell those stories. And another one while it's in my head, The Boondocks. That was
mm,
another show that, again, it was very short lived. It was very short lived, and again, I guess at the time, you know, it was hard. I don't know, to show that, but like The Boondocks, again, talk about Black culture and talk about, you know, um, the psychological, emotional environments, and the ways that Black people in specific environments and circumstances have to move through with just knowledge. And we have to get this knowledge from the streets. We have to get this knowledge from our music. We have to get this knowledge from stories of family members, and not, you know, because you know, say what you want about the school system, but like, you know, that goes into a whole other political conversation. But something like The Boondocks kind of laid it all out there, you know.
yeah,
It's insane.
it is insane. And even then, I think we talked about this earlier, but just like you don't see very many Black lead characters, and you certainly don't see many mixed race
Right.
characters,
At all. Yeah.
and certainly not as a lead. I mean, it's like, and that just, it adds a whole other layer, because then, you know, oh, it's not just, you know, the African American experience. It's like, how do you deal with being not enough of,
Right.
you know, either? So it's, I feel like that's something that doesn't get talked about enough.
Right. And I mean, that isn't that everybody's story though? Because even if you transcend race, like we all in some way or another trying to figure out, am I good enough? Am I big enough? Am I tall enough? Am I small enough? Am I light enough? Am I black enough? Am I, you know what I mean? And again, another one of the principles of Zack and Time, that again, reading the script, I was like, oh yes, yes. I mean, it's again just that age, that tender age of like 11 to 13, that middle school years, so crucial, and so like it plays such a big part of who we ultimately end up becoming as people, right?
Yeah.
Like I think a lot. I think I remember a lot of stuff from high school, but a lot of both again my joys and traumas of who I am as an identity were, you know, I
Mm-hmm.
think came to surface in middle school. So
Mm-hmm.
that idea of Zack being in this place trying to figure out, you know, well, he's got darker skin, so he knows he's not this, but his skin is lighter than those people's skin, so he's not
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Where exactly does he fall? You know,
Mm-hmm.
and though I, you know, am not mixed race in that way. I mean, I'm sure if you do 23andMe, you might find some stuff, but I am not like I'm not biracial in that way. But I have
Mm-hmm.
my mentor, his daughter is biracial, and she was just on my heart the entire time. I was trying to bring what that could feel like out. You know, again, I have so many other wells that I could tap into as far as like I don't belong in this space. How do I bring? But that specific thing, I really uh, just tried to channel the curiosity and the frustration that a lot of biracial children have, of just identity and who am I and how do I fit in, and who listens to me. I see the pride for that race. I see the culture for that race, but mine is intertwined. Mine is blended. You know, I also have a
Mm-hmm.
best friend who's biracial as well. She's black in West Indy, and same thing. Her entire life, my mother has a very thick Trinidadian accent, and her father was, you know, African American, and so growing up with these two cultures and these um, two different ways that families operate culturally, uh, it takes a toll. It takes a toll. So yeah, I just tried that. There's a scene. I don't want to give it away, but there's a scene in the first episode of Zack really, um, really just it's like these little moments of him looking at the picture of his father, um, or just when he gets to the school and like what all of those emotions bring up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
where do you see yourself? You know, and I think that's the question. Like we every day we're trying to figure out, where do we see ourselves? How can we be
Yeah.
heard? How can we be seen? So
And that's, I mean, anyone can experience that, but it's also important to realize that, like, just subconscious, subtle ways that we divide each other is like,
um,
it is not talked about. And it's so great that, you know, parents and teachers can have this show to show their kids.
yeah.
Because sometimes, there's obviously hate that's intentional, and then there's also hate that's just like seen as the norm
Yeah.
because of how people like it's, and that needs to stop. So it's like,
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it, I mean, I think it's fear based, you know?
yeah,
People are afraid of things they don't understand. So, you know,
yeah.
I mean, I think we had such a cultural awakening as
Mm-hmm.
a country last summer. Um, and I mean, even that comment is debatable. There are some who would say, no, we've been talking about this. And there are many who have been talking about this, but there are others who They really just did not understand. They just didn't know. They didn't see it. So I feel like, you know, that's what that's this whole idea of, again, fitting in and somebody expecting you to follow the status quo, but you don't even really understand what the status quo is. And I feel like that's the heart of Zach is, okay, I'm just gonna drop you off at school. I'm just gonna, you know, and then he finds this watch that's like, nope, you are now a part of this operation, and this is how we do things. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's
That's just instantly, it gives Zach an out to realize, hey, I can choose who to listen to. I
yeah,
can choose what my own beliefs are and how I see myself and what I want to do with this watch now.
right,
Whether it's good for not good, nothing, destroy it, you know.
yeah.
It's
How do I get it off me? How do I get this thing
yeah.
off me? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
It is crazy. Is there anything that you would advise aspiring voice actors?
Classes, train. I during my time in school, specifically grad school, like I've really started to understand just acting in general, but how you apply yourself to specific projects is almost like a sport, right?
Yeah.
So you don't just see the greats that we all love, the Kobe Bryants and the, you know, Serena Williams and all these beautiful, very hardworking, very passionate athletes. I mean, look at the Olympics. You know, I'm just naming celebrity athletes, but there's so many who, when they are not on the court or in the ring or whatever it is their sport is, they are practicing. They are consistently practicing and, in theater terms, rehearsing, right?
Mhm.
And the idea, what I love so much about, like, how Kobe Bryant talks about, you know, the winning shot is that he would always set a timer and go in, obviously before the rest of his team, and just hit these these threes. And the idea is that if ever you are in um, if ever you are in a jam, or it's the last 3 seconds or 2 seconds on the shot clock, like, the pressure of you being able to hit that will be nothing because you've prepared, you've practiced, you've worked it. So I feel the same way about acting in general, but specifically voice acting, because there's such an art to it. There's such a very, and even doing Zach in Time, I realized there's such a specific craft, really, to how to tell a story with your voice and use words and use inflections and create a world with no one else there. So I'm in a whole scene with you, and I never see you, I never meet you. Like, believe it or not, everyone, I have not met the rest of our cast. I don't think any of us have, simply because we did this during a pandemic,
Yeah.
but still being able to have the emotional connection and imagination to connect with my mother, you know, Zach's mom and Zach's friends, and the difference, because we all talk differently with different people. You know, my friends, my mom, I talk, the way that I speak with my mother is a completely different way than I speak with, you know, my father or my best
Yeah.
friend.
Mhm.
And so being able to map that on the page and never hearing another voice or seeing another face, but really coming out of my imagination with that. A lot of that takes, you know, there's craft to that. And so I would tell anyone who's aspiring to be an actor, or specifically a voice actor, to train. There's so many classes in LA and New York, and now that we have the luxury of Zoom and so many instructors that are teaching via Zoom, it's, find you one, you know. So
Mhm. Or you can even just, find find projects to work on.
yeah,
Someone doing a 30-second animated
yeah.
tube.
I would even say go, if you can, get a children's book and start there. You can
Mm.
read a children's book out loud and just
Yeah.
apply voices to the different characters in your head. Uh, I mean, because it's really it's all imagination. It is all imagination. So if you, I mean, there's so many people so many of my actor friends who got into audiobooks during this pandemic. So like just picking up a book in general and just reading it out loud. Again, that is the very beginning of storytelling. And why we all got into it is that we remember sitting in a circle in kindergarten, you know, preschool, listening to the Three Little Pigs, listening to, you know, all these different stories, these nursery rhymes and these stories that live with us, but they all came through someone sitting there reading. And I personally remember whoever was reading, whether it was a teacher or a guest speaker, whoever it was, always making the big bad wolf sound like this. And the three little pigs sound like this, you know? So it's like,
Yeah.
very, but I mean, at its basic core, it forces you to go somewhere with your voice, to bring it
Yeah.
out for a child or a young mind. So
Yeah, and there's a musicality involved.
yeah,
Not even just in your speaking in your regular voice, you know, am I going to say the line like this or am I going to say the line like this?
like this. Yeah.
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 I mean, it's, you know, people remember, people remember dialogue from live action stuff, certainly, but, you know, if you remember a line, you hear the way they say it. You can't just read it in, yeah. Do we have any questions from our wonderful audience?
Yeah, they've been down here talking.
Why you just
you. We're sorry.
Not ignoring you.
We're sorry. We're not ignoring you. We were just chatting. Let's see. Oh, now it stops. It stops now.
Now the questions have stopped. Someone says, when is the trailer releasing? The trailer is released for our Patreon patrons. So if you click the link in our bio, you can see the trailer if you contribute to our Patreon page.
You can contribute as little as $1 or $5, but all of it goes towards the project and ensuring that we can bring you more Zach in time.
Yeah.
We had a question. Is it coming out on YouTube?
You will have to see. We will definitely let you know.
So
what's
what would be
all to voice acting?
What would be your favorite role to voice act in? Are we talking like general, or are we talking like if there was a movie that I could go back and recreate and play around with? Because I kind of like that.
Cool.
I like that, but I would like to know like if there's more, because I think obviously I love villains. You know, villains I think are just so funny, but I'm still working my instrument to be able to do a villain, because I just think I usually can fulfill like the dad roles or the, you know, the caring, loving roles. Zach was the youngest that I'd gone, and I had to kind of pinch my larynx a little bit to kind of get his voice to a place of like puberty's kicking in, awkwardness is there, a little unsurety of himself, all that comes in with Zach. So so far that, yeah, but I would really love to get into like a villain and just play around, you know, something like that.
Zach's evil twin,
you know. But even then, that's like, I have to figure out who that guy is, you know. What is that, or even if it doesn't even have to be a guy, it could be, you know, anybody. Just what that energy of someone who is invoking evil and pain. Don't do a British villain. Okay, all right, I won't do it.
A lot of villains have British accents, which is a little bit concerning.
I don't know why. I'm sorry. I'm not allowed to do a British villain. Okay. But it's even creepier. It's even creepier, I guess, when like, what happens if the villain is just calm? And
yes.
Have we heard of a villain that just speaks like this and just, you know, and just this kind of calming voice? Like that's a little bit. I mean, that's what I loved about Anthony Hopkins and any of the Silence of the Lambs is that hello Clarice, that kind of just It's like, oh, you can feel the spider. It's kind of crawling up your neck. You know?
It's unsettling. Sometimes, like, real life villains, the way they speak to people is often pretending to they're comforting. They
Yeah.
say what someone wants to hear, and they're manipulative, even though they sound like they're coming from a good place or an encouraging place, or they feel like they're trying to appeal to something in
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a lot harder to recognize um, when someone is up to no good in real life.
Right. Right. And it's so funny because especially with animation. I mean, again, the fun you get to have is usually the animations are drawn first. So like seeing Zach, even when I like first did a reading for him, like seeing his picture, seeing his animation gave me so much because I get to really look at how is he standing, what are the faces he's making, and that a lot of that went into my discovering his voice. Was it's like if I did my face the way he does it, if I have that little smirk, that little smile he's got, of like mischievousness, but also like I'm not really sure what I'm doing, but I'm like I'm here, all those kind of, I start to put that in my body and then figure out where that lives in my voice. So I think with even a villain, like you kind of see how they're drawn, you can go, ooh, okay, this guy or gal or this person feels like it could be this.
Yeah. And even from because I do some voice acting, but I'm mainly a writer and a producer. I find it much easier to write shows when I have seen the characters.
Yeah.
Existing show is much easier to write because the characters seem more real because
Yeah.
of the act. I mean, even just after the first recording session, it's just instantly clear. Oh, that's who they are.
Right. Yeah.
In
It
a
just
way,
gives. I mean, it's so much storytelling in the animation and the
yeah,
drawing.
yeah. It's I'm trying to think if I have questions for you. Anything else that you would like to say about Zack in Time?
It's gonna be dope. It is dope. I think everything we've spoken about, of like all the different layers and complexities that this show kind of encapsulates. Um, I think people are in for a wild ride, and I'm hoping that um, it's well received and it's received with love, because I feel the love in it, and I feel the I feel the expansion of how the Zack in Time universe can really expand itself, and and continue to bring in so much. Like I'm interested in Zach's father. I'm
Yeah.
also interested in Zach's relationship, and this is to Kristen or whoever else. I'm also very interested in Zach's grandmother, and there's something about that, like this, because again, if we want to stay true to uh, Zach's split of identity as far as being biracial, I think that is such a huge component to learning who you are and learning your history is if you can learn cultures on both sides and how that affects Zach and how he moves about the world in that way. But it's action packed. It has a lot of fun components to it. Of Zach just jumping in and out of these different time periods and time frames. Um, I went to the American Museum of Natural History earlier today, and again, seeing these dinosaur fossils and all these like old animals that walked the earth, millions of years ago. Just I feeling the excitement of history and feeling the excitement of what would really happen if I had a watch and like could jump around time. We get to watch Zach do that. So
We do.
oh,
And
there we go. Christian says
Christian
Zach's
says,
past will definitely be revealed.
Woo! We will know more about Zach.
Yes. Yes.
That's wonderful.
So, yeah. That's what I got right now.
Yeah. Well,
and I will say this: if
yeah.
because I know the Zach and Time page were asking these questions. If I could go back to a time, I personally, there's something about the 70s that I love. I love the 70s, and again, because of who I am, and I cannot deny who I am as a black man in the 70s, the whole Soul Train and the vibes with the afros and the bell, but just the grooviness of the 70s. I just want to do a period piece. Like I hope that I have that in my career to where I could do a period piece where I can play a character from the 70s, because it's amazing. I love that period. So
maybe Zach will go to the 70s in an episode. We'll see.
we had a question. Can you tell about dialogue and action and moments and parallels? I mean, I kind of stated it already, but yeah, I mean, I feel like this whole conversation has really been that. I mean, really, how we all can identify and learn from Zach's story and his history, and just the experience of not being able to fit in, and how you have to push through that in order to live. How you have to when the world is calling on you, because I feel like that's what happens with Zach. He finds his watch, and all of a sudden his problems become like they're his problems as well. But now he has the weight of an entire, investigative corporation that's like, hey, we need that watch, but it won't come off his skin. So now we need you. So here you go from feeling invisible, feeling unseen, to now being catapulted immediately into this world where we need you. The entire world is banking on who you are. So all in one episode,
I mean, super scene.
Yeah.
Like, you're being just, you have clear choices that you have to make, and everyone's analyzing why you're making them.
Yeah.
And drawing conclusions. And it's like, and someone's always going to be disappointed when you make a choice. And so then there's just this extra pressure, but yet also freedom.
Right.
Because you have the power of being able to decide for yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I am so glad that we got to talk to you on our Instagram page today. And I hope we can share this video and cross-promote the series and get people to see the trailer on our Patreon page. Click our link in the bio. And more of Zach will be revealed.
Yeah, thank you for hosting, and thank you everybody for chiming in. And as we have this whole entire discussion about not being able to fit in and being who you are, I want to say Happy Pride Month for all those who live out and proud. And we do it for you. So thank you.
Thanks. Have a good day.
See you later, Holly.
Bye.